Yesterday I posted something about a message I got in my DM. In fact, let's look at the message again.
Good evening. I need advice, please. My world is crashing. I got married 6 months ago. When I met my husband, he made me feel loved, and I saw him as my safe place because he accepted my son and promised that as soon as we were married, he will adopt him officially. My son's father passed while we were planning our wedding. I kept the pregnancy because he was a good and honorable man. The problem now is we are married for barely 6 months and he wants me to send my son to live with my mother in the village. I've tried to ask what's changed and he's not giving me any reasonable response. I'm confused. What should I do?
The first thing I noticed is immaturity and inexperience from the part of the lady. Now, remember, she has never been married. She, yes, got pregnant for her baby's dad, who unfortunately passed on, and she had to pick up the pieces of her life. Now, she took that decision to keep that baby, which for me is commendable. As far as I'm concerned, it was a very difficult decision to have taken at that time. Because here's the thing, everyone who has been through divorce, who is separated, who is a widow or a widower, goes through 5 stages. The first stage is the shock stage. I mean, you didn't get into marriage planning to leave the marriage. You didn't get into marriage expecting that your spouse is going to pass. So first, shock is the first thing you experience when you go through that. And after shock comes denial. You know that, is it actually true? Is this happening? Has he actually moved on? There's the denial stage. After the denial stage comes the grief stage. Now, at this point, you've come to terms with the fact that, oh, this is actually happening. And you begin to grieve the loss of a loved one. You begin to grieve the walking away of a loved one. There's definitely grief. After grief, I love the next process because it is the healing process. That process is where you begin to understand that, okay, this has happened, but I need to move on with life. I need to be, I need to be happy again. You heal, and then finally comes the restoration process. So now let me tell you why it was quite commendable for her to take that decision at that time. She went through these processes, and no one who's going through this process takes the right decision. So for her to have decided to take that decision, it is quite commendable. Now, taking that one decision to keep that baby made her a single mom automatically. And if I know so much about single moms, I understand that they are peculiar kind of people. Single moms put their children first for every decision they want to take. Single moms literally live for their children. And so, I'm sure when she met her husband, she laid a good foundation by opening up to him and letting him know who exactly she is. But here's the thing, the guy saw a single mother who was vulnerable to be loved, who was vulnerable to want to have a father figure over her child, and he took advantage of her. Look, single mothers, you need to be careful how you project yourself out there, because a lot of these men who come to our lives are watching to see, what your vulnerabilities are, and they walk around them. Let me tell you something. If you decided to keep your baby because you felt your late spouse was a honorable man, then I think you shouldn't be quick to give out his son for adoption, regardless of the circumstance you find yourself. It's okay to remarry, but I mean, the child mustn't bear your present husband's name, because that's where the problem really is. Now, there are two things involved. Your marriage is too young for this kind of crime. You're barely 6 months into this marriage. I will not ask you to leave your marriage if that is not what you want. But these are two things I am going to tell you. Number one, men love respect in marriage. Every man wants a wife who would respect and honor them. And if he has decided that he wants you to take your son to the village to stay with your mom, I think you should honor him and take that child back to your mom. The child's mental health should be your priority. He needs to grow up in a stable environment. Give him all the care that he deserves from where you are. What I mean, do not put your marriage in any form of risk. On a second thought, I just think this whole thing is not just adding up. First, there was no form of deception when he met you. You told him the truth. You laid the cards on the table how it was. And he made you a promise. So if he couldn't keep his promise, for me, that is selfish and manipulative. If a man loves you enough to want to be with you, then he should love you enough to be able to raise your child alongside you. If he couldn't keep a promise as weighty as that, then he has a questionable character. I mean, how many other promises is he going to break in the course of that marriage? Unfortunately, I'm not the primary decision maker in this whole scenario. You are. You live with him, so you know him better than I do. You wear the sandal and you know where it hurts. But I mean, nothing is worth it in life. No one should put you in the position, if they truly love you, that would make you choose them over you and your child. That would be the meanest thing anyone will have to force your hand to do. So if you know that in the future, in the long run, this marriage is going to be toxic because of that one decision, or it's going to cost you your mental health and peace and happiness, then it's about time to have a rethink and take a walk.